Welcome to Wonder Paws Down Under. I'm Anita.
And I'm Dan.
And we're here again to bring you some more pet-friendly travelling tips on the road to, well, nowhere. The last time we spoke to you, we were travelling through the Flinders Ranges. And since then, we have been through some pretty cool little stations and towns and hotels along the Oodnadatta Track.
Yeah.
Many things.
Some pretty amazing Australian outback scenery. And I'll be honest with you, I expected a lot of red dirt and, in general redness and red sand, but that was actually going to come later in Central Australia. This was a completely different part of the desert and the outback where there was a lot of whites, a lot of yellows, so many flies. Oh my God, I think even the cat wanted to get out of there. But anyway.
Definitely. But I guess after leaving the Flinders Ranges, we did stop for, I think, a week in a really neat little place called Parachilna Gorge. Now, why did we stop there? Mostly because we were exhausted after all the days of hiking and we were really looking for somewhere where we could chill out with the pets because, as you know, the Flinders Ranges are a national park, so the pets weren't able to come with us everywhere. But at Parachilna, they're completely welcomed and you can pretty much park up anywhere along the Gorge River. Well, it's a dry riverbed.
Yeah, exactly. So Parachilna Gorge, the actual gorge area stretches across about 20 kilometres. So that's what Anita mentioned before. You can literally just find yourself a spot, park up wherever you want. Obviously not in the middle of the road, maybe. So it's 500 kilometres north of Adelaide, about 96 kilometres north of Rawnsley Park Station, which is the sheep station where we stayed at. Amazing. Check out that previous episode of ours. And yeah, this was just proper, good quality, free off-grid camping and super pet friendly as well.
And we were even there on a public holiday, I think, I remember, and we still managed to pretty much find ourselves a little spot with plenty of room. I think this was the first time on our trip that we actually started exercising again because we had a bit of space and we didn't really have any people prying and looking at us. It was a really good spot for wild camping. You need to be fully self-sufficient if you're going to stay in Parachilna Gorge itself. But there are some neat little towns, or not towns, they're kind of tourist villages or very, very small towns, historical towns, not that far away. So you can actually drive, I think maybe 20 kilometres and you'll find yourself at Blinman, which is a great little pet-friendly town. They had a pub and a bakery. We were able to score some sourdough. And then what was the closest little town? There was a really cool...
Yeah, it was called, I'm going to have to read this out because it's a bit of a strange name, China Tourist Village.
That's right, yeah.
So basically, it's actually the closest fuel to Parachilna Gorge and the only fuel in the area. So if you do run low, then that's somewhere you can fill up. It's also got a little grocery store with a surprisingly interesting selection of ports and sherries.
So if you do a drop, there was some alcohol available there actually, and chocolate, which was very important.
Yeah.
The good thing about the tourist village as well is I think we were able to fill up water. Was the water available?
Yeah, I think if
you paid, if you paid them, or if you were staying, there is actually a little tourist park, so you can actually stay there if you do. You don't want to stay out in the wild, and you can have toilet accessibility. So that was really cool because we were in the wild, but we were able to actually go to the bathroom, have a little shop when we needed to.
Fill up the gas, I think they allow as well.
So it's a really cool little place because, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah, and look, these are pretty remote parts of Australia. For us from Victoria, we're not used to being in places that are hours from the nearest fuel stop or, just in general, not being able to access anything at your fingertips. So we started to really feel like the trip was taking on a more remote turn, which, added to the appeal because that's kind of why we're doing this.
And having to plan and go well, where can we get fuel? Where can we get food? So this was really the start of our real journey, I guess. Feeling like we were a little bit more in the outback parts of Australia.
Yeah. So nearby, there's obviously the Flinders Ranges region. So this is at the top. So you can access quite a lot of four-wheel drive tracks and hikes from this part of the range. But yeah, Glass Gorge, that was a good one. So yeah, look, it's not really much of a hike per se. It's more just a bit of a walk around this beautiful sheer gorge, and it has kind of stacked stones, so you can actually rock climb up. You'll see a photo we're just chucking up or a video of us doing it and Wally trying to follow. But yeah, it's nice little walks around there, lots of dog friendly areas. It sounds like it might be a state park of some sort, or maybe even just land. No restrictions, really.
And the coolest thing about this location is there is actually two, and when we say towns, we mean very small, like a very short strip of town. One being Blinman, which I mentioned earlier, that does have a pub and a bakery. And so you've got places that you can kind of get food or at least go out maybe if it's the weekend. Being a country town, things aren't open all the time. But then there was also this really famous, it's been written in a John Williams song, I think, about the Prairie Hotel, and that was something special. So for a start, driving there, it really does feel like you're in the outback, because I think that was kind of a reddish road that we were driving down. There was animals, emus,
corrugations.
kangaroos. Yeah, so it felt like, oh, here we are.
Yeah, Saturday night at the Saturday night dinner, we felt like we were going clubbing back in the Melbourne days, except we were driving down a horrible corrugated road at night.
Exactly. And so you literally are driving down, a corrugated road in the outback, and then all of a sudden you come to this beautiful place called the Prairie Hotel, and it literally had the most amazing food and very Australian menu. What was the platter that we had? It was really exciting.
There was a meat platter that you could get, which involved camel sausages, emu patties, I think some sort of cut of kangaroo. There was something else. It's proper quintessential Australian. But the best part is it's done with Australian native herbs.
Yeah, it was delicious.
And sauces as well.
If you're a meat eater, and look, I'm not a big meat eater, but I enjoyed it just for a bit of an experience. And we also had, I think it was like a Sri Lankan goat. A Sri Lankan goat curry. And it was friggin' awesome. We felt really, really like we were having a day out in Melbourne, honestly, because the food was top quality, the drinks, the cocktails, we're dressed up, there was music. So literally we had gone from being in the middle of nowhere in nature to being out and having a great time. So that's a definite top pick for us. Prairie Hotel, it is dog friendly if you sit outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit chilly when we were there. So
they do have heat, what is it called? Like flames. What are they? The
fire?
The fire. They have fires, but yeah, it was a bit cold when we were there.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure Wally really, really enjoyed his regular dinner so much that he didn't even want to come with us.
Yeah, of course. He loves his plain old dinners.
Yeah, so as we moved further north into the world, we were going to embark on our little journey across the Oodnadatta Track, which is a really, really famous Australian outback road. In order to get there, we had to go through the town of Marree. So Marree is about 200 kilometres north of Parachilna, 650 kilometres from Adelaide. It's basically where the bitumen road stops and the road veers off. Well, the road basically divides into two directions. One is the Birdsville Track, which goes up to Queensland, another really famous outback road. And to the left-hand side, or towards the west, is the Oodnadatta Track, which gets you to Coober or Oodnadatta. So, Marree, cool little historical town. Lots of choo-choo trains, and if you're a train buff, there's a few things to see there. And there was also the first mosque in the Australian outback.
Oh yeah, there was a
commemoration.
Yeah, like a replica. It's a smaller version of a little replica of the first mosque that was in maybe South Australia or a whole of Australia. I'm not sure, but it was really cool because they had sort of done a sculpture of it, and it was cool. Another thing that was awesome about that was they had all the old trains, and the whole historical little site there is actually pretty cool. And the hotel, it's not fancy. It's not a fancy place, but it's got a real Aussie vibe, that's for sure.
Super Aussie, super true blue, from the characters.
Other than the staff who are obviously backpackers, which is fine.
But the local characters that were there actually made up for that. But the food was okay. I'm not going to, go on too much about it. Not much to write home about, but the beer was cold and the beer was reasonably cheap and the vibes were good.
And the thing is if you buy a drink or buy a beer, buy a dinner there, you actually stay in the hotel for free. Not the hotel. Sorry, it's my mistake. I don't want to oversell it. You don't stay in the hotel, but if you have a caravan or a camper, all of those kinds of things, you can park out the back of the hotel for free.
Yep.
So
and use the showers, toilets.
Yeah, you might as well get something for your money, even if it's not top notch, dinner. Yep. It's worth it.
And it's pet friendly as well.
And it's pet friendly.
Had no issues with Wally or Paprika. That was just an overnight stop because Marree is the final fuel stop when you get, the first fuel stop of when you get onto the Oodnadatta Track. So,
and I guess the funny thing is it's super busy because of that, like, because people are literally stopping here just before they go like out into the middle of nowhere. So it's quite a busy hotel. So that's kind of surprising, I guess, until you sort of see, you understand why once you see where everyone's headed, and you get to have sort of yarns with everyone about where they're going.
Lots of forward drive talk, lots of talk about tyre pressures and tyres and engines.
Whether you want them or not, whether you want them or not.
Moving on to the Oodnadatta Track. Now, we got some mixed feelings about this one because, as you probably know, we're a little bit green with this sort of stuff. We're only a few months in. Well, no, so not even a few months. We're probably like a month in to our travels. I've lost count. And we're not that experienced with outback driving, and we're certainly not experienced with driving very long distances on these outback roads, these unsealed roads. So the Oodnadatta Track is 617 kilometres long from Marree to Oodnadatta. There is also an option at William Creek to turn left and head to your west, and that will take you to Coober Pedy. So that's actually the part that we ended up doing, to Coober Pedy. And look, we had some anxiety about this road, obviously because we're not experienced, because a lot of our gear is brand new, so I'm sure it works and it's good gear, but you just never know until you properly test it out.
And taking the pets onto the bumpy roads, which Paprika, not the best traveller, so yeah, it was going to be interesting, and it was extremely interesting.
So day one was going from Marree to Coward Springs, which is only like a leisurely 113 kilometres. That was a really, really good decision in hindsight because it broke up the trip well. There was actually things to see along the way, a couple of stops we'll talk to you about in a sec.
There was an art display on the way to Coward Springs, I think.
Yeah, so that was called the Mutonia, or Mutonia.
Oh, sorry. You were going to come to that next.
Sculpture Park.
My bad.
Read your notes, Anita. Read your notes.
Yes. So that was pretty awesome, though. Like, you'll see it's got the Mad Max vibes.
Yeah.
The dog, unfortunately, being a 1080 baited area, was wearing his muzzle. That later we ended up chucking out that muzzle and getting a different one because we've realised the one that he was wearing is probably not appropriate. But it did actually look pretty cool in the environment because...
You'll see now. Yeah, he had his own Mad Max vibes. It was like a dress-up party, and he was the only one invited to dress up.
Paprika came along to the art gallery. That was his first art gallery.
Yeah, Paprika didn't really give us stuff, judging by his facial expression.
Yeah, I don't think he was that keen on it. It was pretty hot too, and flies and whatever else.
But it was really interesting because you are literally in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, there is no houses, no nothing, just rock, dirt, sand, and this very strange culture park. And it's about 51 k's from Marree, so it's a nice little hour after you leave, maybe a bit less. Helps ease the anxiety of going on this road. Also,
it gives you something to do. That's it. Gives you something to do.
Yeah, and about 40 k's up the road was the Kati Thanda Lake Eyre National Park viewing platform.
That was your dream.
That was my dream because Lake Eyre is the largest salt lake in Australia. Super famous, or as it's known, in Kati Thanda Lake Eyre. And look, it's attracted its fair share of controversy over the years because a lot of forward drivers have actually been quite stupid and driven beyond the viewing area onto the actual salt flats or salt pans. And although it looks dry, and it probably is dry, that doesn't mean your car won't sink. So not only can you get super bogged if you do that, but you also ruin the natural environment, which
is home to a lot of birds and different
and the local
wildlife.
Indigenous people ask you to stay off. But the viewing platform, as you can see now,
you can drive up, get a nice photo, have a look around.
If you don't mind the flies.
Oh yeah, as always.
Yeah, so this is like the first time.
South Australia was definitely the highlight of all the flies for our trip thus far. So there was just everywhere.
But what? Maybe another hour up the road.
I think you just mentioned it. The Coward Springs.
Oh my god! proper desert oasis.
All right, let's not oversell it. But
no. Let's. Why don't we get to the? Should we skip to the ice cream, or we'll get to?
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like, so look, if you were flying from Melbourne into Coward Springs, you'd be like, "Where have I landed?
Like,
this is nothing. Like, what are you on about?" But having driven in the middle of nowhere, going to places like Marree where you can't even get anyway, just everywhere that we have been.
It's remote. It's remote.
Yeah, exactly. It's
There's
remote.
nothing there.
You're starving. You want something different in your life. And then you come to this place and they have ice cream in the middle of the desert. Literally. I think we were eating canned food by this point. No, I'm really joking.
Yeah, but they had not only ice cream, but they had a whole smorgasbord
Coffees
of
and
different
dates and
date-based
chocolates.
desserts and
So obviously there's a date, well, not obviously, but they have a date farm. Plantation. And because of that, there is so much desserts available for you here. And to be honest, we had a sweet tooth and it was really expensive to buy chocolate. That's what I was thinking. It's so expensive to buy chocolate in Marree. I think we went to go buy a block of chocolate and we were like, it was like $9 or something like that.
Yeah,
and we just didn't feel like that was okay. So we were like, nah, we can live without chocolate. And then we arrived here and there was chocolate and there was ice cream and it was just divine.
So you could be forgiven for thinking you just turned up to a chocolate factory or a cafe, but there's actually more to Coward Springs. So as the name suggests, it is a spring, a natural spring. And as we later found out, it is, by the way, pretty awesome. Like it feels really rustic and the whole place. And
I loved it.
Like you're basically sitting in this enclosed space. So it's enclosed by wooden boards with a decking area, like rustic decking. And it's got the spring, obviously the water where you go into, but the spring is kind of like right next to a whole bunch of reeds.
Yeah, that's
like
what
it's
I'm
got
saying.
real nature vibes. So if you look too close, you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm just in like a swamp or
You're
something.
like, I'm pretty sure there could be a snake or a lizard swimming with me, but you just don't think about it.
No,
I'm really joking.
I think
not that
I think
bad.
it's reasonably enclosed.
As you can probably see
anyway.
from some of the photos we've put up or like any of the videos that I took on that time, like on that occasion, they were absolutely, it was fun. It was lovely.
Yeah.
The dog was allowed everywhere with us. It was so cute.
Including into like the decking area of
They
the
even-
spring. I
yeah,
don't think he wanted, well, he wanted to
He
go in,
wasn't
but
allowed to go
stuff
in the
him.
water because there was other people coming and we're like, oh, I better not let him jump in the water.
It's not very relaxing having a spa with a dog, is
No,
it?
it's not. They even had like a little historical like station there as well of some sort, and it was really cool. I loved it. The people were really nice working there. We had a really nice little fire pit at nighttime.
Yeah, beautiful sunsets, and it was actually
the sky was beautiful.
Although you have to be self-sufficient, and pretty much anyone that drives through there
was
tends to be.
toilets, though.
Yeah, there are toilets,
There's
rustic showers. Really super cute place and a perfect stopover in either direction if you're taking the Oodnadatta Track.
Yeah, obviously after bouncing around on that road for so long, it was beautiful.
Yeah, actually, you just triggered my memories. So I like to think that I'm a fairly spiritual person, and I'm becoming increasingly more so. But an event happened overnight that really, like, still got me really scratching my head about the divine and some bigger questions in life. So we got up the next morning to continue going down the Oodnadatta Track, and I recalled a dream that I'd had in the early morning. And the dream basically involved an entity telling me, as part of my daily checks that I do on the car, like the oil, the coolant level, check the tow ball. And I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. Like, why would that even come into my subconscious? And I decided to actually roll with it and have a look into it. And lo and behold, the bolt that holds the tow ball, the nut, was loose. And I mean like proper finger loose. So you can imagine going through the corrugations, it's probably loosened it. And if I hadn't have checked that specific part, and we would have got going at 80 to 100 k's an hour, we could have lost the caravan, could have had a really serious accident. And thank the divine, thank God, I don't know who these entities are that gave us a hand, but it actually at least saved serious injury and might have even saved our life. So, I checked it as I was trying to tighten it. Murphy's Law, something else happened. The spanner that I was using broke. I literally just broke into.
And this is where like meeting other people on the road can actually be a benefit, and not like, oh, I hate that this person talked to me, or like you're not in the mood. Sometimes it's really good to have friends on the road and talk to people and get, familiar, because they might be your little angel at some point.
Yeah. So the people that were staying next to us had a pretty sizable setup.
Oh, man,
and
they were
I've just chucked the video up because you can see the contrast between ours. Like, doing this life in your 30s versus, you know, maybe when you're retired and you've sold the
Oh,
house.
they had it all, man.
But thanks to that, he had a really, really sick toolbox. He was able to give me this gigantic pipe wrench that just sorted out my bolt tightening operation in no time, and we were on our way. So we obviously thanked the divine. Yeah, feel super blessed because that would not have been a fun experience.
And that just goes to show like how incredibly difficult that road actually is. And, you know, that was our first time as well. So it was,
And the
I mean,
tire
we've been on
pressures-
corrugations, but like this is like a proper road of just non-stop corrugation and potholes. And I think it had rained as well.
Yep.
So we had to deal with that.
And our tire pressures
so it
were
was
let
shitty.
down. So we tried to do the right thing.
Yeah,
but
we did all the right things. It's just that, I think obviously it just shows that you do need to take those times to check your bits and pieces and make sure everything's in the right spot because, it moves.
Yeah. Not that these two behind us were any of the wiser. They just continued. Wally enjoyed his time out the window, and Paprika was starting to get increasingly anxious at the level, ferocity, and duration of this said corrugation. So
this is just
he
a
was
little
meowing a lot.
Yeah, a little tip for people traveling with a cat if it ever is you. I mean, it's not for everyone, but if you do, the corrugations really do take a toll on the cat. Our little baby was in the carrier case and he was just pushing his face up into the mesh and he actually started to tear away a little bit of the skin on his nose. So they do become very anxious. So what we realized is the best way for us with a cat on corrugated roads, if we have to go on them, is that we will stop a lot more regularly. Then he's okay. You know, like you just need to give him a moment to like adjust. It's when you're traveling for over maybe 2 to 3 hours, it really bothers them. Because if you think of how intense the vibrations are for you, I can feel my nervous system like I'm holding on to everything, and they have no control over themselves, the animals. Wally's kind of like goes with the flow. Who knows how he's feeling? He doesn't show anxiety, but Paprika, it was very obvious. So we actually made a decision later on that we would always make sure that we stopped within every hour or so just to make sure the pets were okay. So that's a big tip too, because you just don't realize how much it's affecting them until they do something and you're like, oh sugar, like I should have really been a bit more conscious of that. So just a little note.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, Paprika is not the sort of cat that would just go on a leash to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell when he's meowing when he wants to go to the toilet versus when he's just generally hating life because you're putting him through shit modes.
And sometimes it's a bit of both. We've had accidents now on the road from time to time because we've misread what he needs from us. That's always going to be something that we're learning at the moment. With the cat, the dog's easy. We just know what he needs. But obviously having the cat previously when we lived at home, always had a cat door. We never even saw when he would go to the toilet. Like we never really knew his rhythm, his cycles. And, unfortunately we do kind of know that a bit better now.
Very intimately.
Yeah, but the thing is these are things you have to think about that you probably don't know if you are taking a cat from one environment to another. Yeah, these are things you'll have to learn along the way.
Yeah, and look, for us, we've realised that the limit for the pets is probably about 4 hours per day. Which
of driving in total,
driving. So
with stops.
Which with a Caravan, you can probably get about 400 k's out of it. And to be honest, we're actually a lot happier for it because we're stopping more, we're being a lot more present, more attentive to their needs, and it's more enjoyable for us as well. Because if you don't need to rush, there's just no need to rush. You'll have a better experience.
Agreed.
So moving on, along our way towards Coober we stopped at William Creek. This tends to be a must fill up place for anyone traveling unless you have very long range fuel tanks. I'll admit the fuel was not cheap at all, but you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, so there's no choice.
You kind of just get on with it. What is a choice is whether you have a cold beer at the pub.
We opted out.
We opted out because it was like, look,
it was hot and there was flies and the pets were unhappy.
You are so far away from any town. Like I understand why the price might be higher, but 10 to
we did
10 to
buy
15 bucks for a
takeaway.
beer. No, we didn't.
Didn't we buy takeaways?
Nah, would I ever pay that
tinnies?
much?
No, you didn't. Oh, you're right, we didn't.
No way.
Sorry.
Nah.
How much was it?
10 to 15 bucks for a can. Takeaway. Yeah, no.
For a tinny, and I think it was Cooper's Green.
I'm too much of a cheapskate to allow that.
That's right. We bought our last tinnies at Marree, I think.
Yeah.
And I think we even overpaid for those. But no alcohol is better.
Yeah, and along the journey, we actually got told by, I think it was by a fellow traveller, about this lake that is just over an hour outside of Coober. And we had a look into it on Wikicamps and didn't really have many
Didn't have
reviews,
much
but it did
reviews.
exist.
It's kind of a
It's
secret location, really.
Yeah, so the short name is Lake Cadi. The long name I'm not going to try and pronounce
Please.
here because I think it's the second longest name of anything in Australia.
Cadibarrawirracanna.
True story. Yeah. I put it up on the screen, but let's just stick with Lake Cadi. So 92 k's out of Coober. We found it through Wikicamps. It's really easy to miss because there's just one tiny little sign saying Lake Cadi Bore.
It's
and
tiny, yeah. It's
you
a
wouldn't
small
really
sign.
even think
But there's
anything of
also
it.
a big prohibition sign. No, prohibition. Oh my gosh. This is my specialty. Prohibited sign, which
The
can
Woomera-
confuse you.
The Woomera prohibited area.
Yeah,
which
so
is,
that will really confuse you. If you're a
Yeah.
rule follower like I am, I'm like, we're not allowed to go in here. And then when you read the fine print, it's actually totally fine.
Yeah, I was like, don't worry about it, mate. It's fine. Plus, it's just
But
look where
it
we are. There's-
literally has a big sign saying the Woomera prohibited area. But if you read I'll show you, like, I think we got a picture of the sign. It'll show you like what it actually says. But it's totally fine to go here. There's one problem with this place. When we were there,
Well, hang on. Before we get to the problem,
I'm
what
sorry.
what dream were we sold about Lake Cadi? Let's talk about the dream really briefly. The dream was
water for a start,
water,
because there's not been a lot of water on our trip this
water,
far.
an oasis in the desert, and we're still full on in the outback.
Lots of
desert.
wildlife.
Lots of wildlife, amazing sunsets. There was a mention of some sort of poisonous snake that was seen 3 years ago, which you decided to freak out about
I
this
think
time.
it was a death adder or something.
So we were sold this dream. We were like, oh, wow, this place is grand, amazing. So we turned down this road. We ran about 5 kilometers down a sandy track, and we got there. And yeah, it was
We
nice.
thought we could swim and all of
Yeah, it
that
was
stuff,
nice.
but people were like, oh, it's a great swim. The water was like so salty that if you swam in there, your parts would have burnt off, I swear.
We've been in the Dead Sea
Yeah.
quite a few times. One of the most saline seas or lakes
hurts.
in the world. It hurts. This place, okay, it wasn't
It's
quite
not
the
that
Dead
bad,
Sea,
but
but yeah,
it definitely wasn't somewhere
put
I'd
it
be
this
swimming.
way: the dog went in there all excited. I threw the ball in there. We were none the wiser. We threw the ball in there. Firstly, the dog almost sank down to his
The mud.
elbows from the mud. Secondly, the dog tried to drink this water, and he's like he promptly did that. And then I'm like, oh crap, what have we done? And then I tasted it with my finger. It was like, yeah, no.
It might have just been the time of the year that we were there. There wasn't as much water. There was still water.
Yeah.
I think the animals we saw were cows, and then they weren't really happy that we were there.
No.
And then there's the fly
The flies,
issue.
oh my god.
Yeah, sure, it was private, but you should see us trying to work out.
Yeah, work out, sunbake, do anything outside, unless you have a fly
Oh,
net
no,
and
we
you're willing
did have a tinny.
unless you're willing to have your tinny through a fly net like
Which
we
we
were.
actually did. I think we tried two ways. I think you tried under the net and I tried
Yeah.
through the net.
To be honest, Wally actually didn't mind that much. He was quite happy just doing his thing, chasing the ball. We did have to keep him pretty close because of the snake situation, and it was already starting to get quite warm. And yeah, I mean, look, it's good as a stopover overnight. It's nice if you want to try something a little bit exotic and off the beaten path, and it feels super remote. So, it's off-grid camping at its finest. But it's a tough landscape. It's a tough landscape. It's off-grid camping, remote camping at its finest, but
It's a little bit,
it's
yeah.
a tough landscape.
It's really a harsh land out there in this part of South Australia. Like, before, we hadn't been to any other outback sort of areas at this point, but this definitely felt like there was nothing around you, just cattle, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And nice
And-
stars. The stars were epic.
Oh no, the stars were beautiful. So once the sun goes down and the flies disappear, I don't think there was much mosquitoes or anything like that. It was okay at nighttime. It's
Yeah.
actually really nice.
And no dingoes. So because
Yeah,
we're
no
starting to
dingoes.
get close to dingo territory, obviously we have to be more conscious with Paprika coming out of the caravan and roaming
Yeah,
around.
Paprika walked around a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But over there, look, in our experience, there was no dingoes. Hopefully there's none when you visit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, to be honest, it's exotic, and it felt exotic and remote. And
Yeah.
if that's your vibe, it's a stunning place.
Yeah, look, it's beautiful. It's Australia.
I think we're just warming up to
I think
remoteness.
I think at
still.
this point, like it was just we were like, why would anyone come here? Because we were like, there was so many flies.
Yeah, the
like
flies really ruled.
we hadn't experienced so many flies until Coward Springs, pretty much. So that was the first time that we had experienced flies. And then we were like at Lake Kati, and we're like, oh my gosh, so many flies. So thank God we had bought our fly nets by this point. But yeah, that was like the start of our fly journey. So it was a lot.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think the pets enjoyed this lake, other than the horrible
I think
road.
Wally was getting smashed by flies as well.
Yeah.
It was quite funny, actually.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a wrap for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. We've covered Parachilna Gorge and the very northern part of the Flinders Ranges, Marree, the Oodnadatta Track, and all the lovely stops on the way.
And the best part about all of these places is they're all pet friendly.
Absolutely. So, yeah, pet friendly, remote, off grid.
Not really any nasty animals around. I mean, you've always got to look out for snakes, but we didn't see anything on the way.
Yep, some divine intervention, and we're still here and happy. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, let us know in the comments what you liked or what you didn't like. We'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell.
Feel free to ask us any questions as well in the
Yeah.
comments. We'd love to reply to you.
Yep. Bye
That's
for now.
it. Bye.
Tough landscape. It's a tough landscape.
Actually in the middle of something.
Hi, sorry, we're just doing a recording at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I come back later?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Yep.
All right, okay.
Wally, up.
Fuck's sake.
Down. Wally, down. Down.
Fucking hell.
So,
I don't know what you're
the
saying.
flies?
Why do people fucking coming up to us everywhere?